right, welcome to another installment of the Fragments of Silicon Reviews. 4 reviews up this week, the first of which is a game called KUR, not to be confused with the music artists. It was actually a bit of an issue when looking for information on this game because that was the first search result. But no, KUR instead, the game here is what I guess we've come to call the boomer shooter. We've talked about this term before, I believe, but it's been a while. I think it was around when we interviewed the creator of Cultic. So in case you're unaware of what this means, the boomer shooter is kind of a dual reference. Because it's basically 90s FPS throwback game, but modern. And that has the connotation of, baby boomer, even though no baby boomers, there were probably some that played these games, but those are Gen X shooters in terms of generational demographics. But it doesn't work into the other part of the wordplay, and that is, those kind of FPS games were renowned for their gunplay, among other things. A lot of weapons, a lot of, just a arsenal instead of the 2 weapons Halo style that came to define the FPS genre, since 2001, basically. At least until Doom 2016 showed up and, showed there was merit in this kind of FPS design style. And, it took a while to percolate because, once again, we've covered these kinds of games before, Dusk being a favorite of mine, at least. But we are very awash in these kind of throwbacks these days. And that is going to have an effect on my ratings here. Because, it's one thing when Dusk came out in 2018 or Ion Storm in, 2019, I think. And, this was rare. This was, a throwback, new and exciting. Whether it be doing things with old engines like Build or the Quake, GZ Doom set, or a game like this, which is using a modern engine to go back to the past, if you will. This game nominally looks like an old FPS, especially with the intentionally chunky, pixelated graphics and lower polygon counts. Though I don't think I would actually call this. I'm not sure if I would call these polygon counts, true 90s FPS. They don't look that low poly. Make of that what you will. They look a lot more stylized than what we would get in the 90s. Because
it's more of a Wanna-Cracker poly.
Yeah. And also worth noting that even though it does wear an influence on its, well, not sleeve, but foot. Definitely foot. More on that in a bit. It's like I really couldn't pinpoint this game to a specific FPS. I couldn't tell you that it's in the mold of Blood or Shadow Warrior, Quake, Doom, Wolfenstein 3D, etc., etc., etc. One thing. Most 90s FPS games weren't this neon. Because the overarching art style, I would say, is neon gradients. You'll get a lot of solid colors in packets. A room will be blue or green or something like that. And I can't really think of an FPS game from the 90s. Closest thing I can think of is the System Shock games, and even they don't fit in. So, kudos to KUR for carving out its own identity. Like, that being said, the overall art style is also a lot of corridors, a lot of faceless corridors. Not gonna lie, it's one of those games where you're probably gonna have trouble telling one level from another at points, just because of all the corridors. No, it does have distinct areas in a given level. Also worth noting that the levels themselves do adhere to a sprawling 90s FPS style, but I can't say that the level design is actually as good as the cream of, the throwback crop there. It's not bad. It's just I've seen better. And I think that might be the core mantra of my review here. Is not bad, but I've seen better. Like, to wit, the actual gameplay is fine, I guess, but like the movement, I was never impressed with. And indeed, I actually got this game when it was in early access, and I wasn't particularly impressed with it then. And it has gotten polished as it entered 1.0 release. This is a full release, so this isn't an impression. No, this is a full-on review. And that is unfortunate because I think this game should have stayed in early access longer because it always had a bit of a rough, raw feel. And it still has that, even though it's now beyond 1.0. Its movement is, for example, kind of paradoxical. And it's also, I think the best commentary I saw on this was, it needed to evolve beyond its basic Unity feel. And I would say it did not do that. But in terms of its gameplay, it's paradoxically both very fast and very slow. And not fast in good ways, slow in a very confusing and bad way. That is to say, the game is very, you move fast, you jump fast, you leap fast, and that's to accommodate the central gimmick. But a bit on that, more on that in a bit, because the odd thing is I always had problems turning and actually hitting enemies. It's weird. And I couldn't exactly pinpoint why that would be. Turning feels like turning a tank, which is kind of amazing in a game that's going for this kind of flexibility. And it's a problem when you want to face an enemy. To the point where I wish there was a quick turn button. I honestly don't know how they got tank control feeling in a game like this, but they did it, sort of. But it's not good. Oh God, no.
Congratulations, you've successfully recaptured a feeling that many games spent many years worth of development trying to figure out how not to do.
Right. Especially in a game where you're bouncing around, or rather kicking around. Because, okay, I've been talking around this thing forever and a day. And so the big, I'd say gimmick or feature, selling point, what have you, the thing that this game really liked is the mighty boot from Duke Nukem 3D. If you don't know what that is, it's basically, an attack that Duke could do, a quick kick, to add some extra, harm or humiliation to an enemy. Mm-hmm. This game took that idea and basically built a game around it, if I'm being honest, because what is called the atomic boot, which is weird that Duke Nukem didn't think of that one, especially since, Atomic Edition and all that. But whatever. The atomic boot isn't just a quick attack. It's a it's a way to get around, basically. And it's also, you use it to kick barrels and other objects at enemies. This is what you can do with a modern physics engine, because try to find the 90s FPS that was doing fucking physics kicks, and I will say that you time traveled. It's like, this is just something that wasn't able to be done in the 90s. Really, not until the early 2000s did we see physics models like this. And it's also a way to get verticality, and because you can use the atomic boot to both get up walls and to bounce off of walls. That's why the controls are, and the jump is maybe surprisingly generous, because it wants you to be able to maneuver around using this boot. Also worth noting, this game will get rid of riot shields, which a lot of enemies carry, and you can shoot those down, but it's going to take some ammo. Being able to master the atomic boot's maneuverability is key into not just getting around, but finding secrets. What would a throwback FPS be without secret hunting? Probably not an accurate one, that's for sure. But anyway, and secret finding is, a lot of it is tied to the boot, whether it's breaking down walls or getting up to a high enough area, that kind of thing. No push walls in this one. It's more build engine-y in that regard. You're breaking down stuff. And other ways you get secrets is there are things you have to duck into, and you also get a slide in this game, which is very satisfying. Probably the most satisfying maneuver in the game. Let's see, gunplay. Yeah, this was another disappointment. And this is one of those things that's really crucial to nailing this kind of game, because a lot of emphasis on 90s FPSs was weaponry and combat, and I won't say it felt awful or anything, but like the starting pistols, for example, they didn't feel all that good either, nor did the shotgun, which admittedly was the only two weapons I unlocked before I just kind of got bored with the game. And yeah, that's basically where I'm coming down here. Like, this isn't bad, but I've seen better. And I do think one thing I can recommend is, this is one of the boomer shooters that has made it out of early access. Like I said, there's a whole wave of these in development right now that you can buy, but they're in like various states of early access. This one crossed that threshold, if nothing else. And the focus here was on content, because it's boasts 20 levels, and we're talking 20 sprawling levels, so it will keep you occupied for a good long while. And let me see here, in terms of pricing, so this game will run you $20. And honestly, that is a perfectly reasonable price for KUR. In fact, I dare say KUR could have gotten away with pricing at 25 to 30 even, and it still would have been worth it nominally. And like I said, this game really comes down to, it's fine, I guess. It's just, I wouldn't put this above a Medieval or Dusk, anything from New Blood. Project Warlock. I could go on down the list of of these kind of shooters that are in development, but honestly, I haven't really gotten around to playing those. I have a whole bunch of them. Thank you, Boomer Shooter Bundle. I just haven't gotten around to them. And indeed, how prevalent these games have gotten. I had to delay a review of another one of these because it was next week, and I'm like, no, I don't think I'm reviewing 2 of these in a row. That's coming in 2 weeks. But anyway, any questions, comments, concerns, or what have you over KUR?
I think I'm good.
All right.
Yeah, nothing specific jumping out. It looks interesting.
Oh, right. I almost forgot about, in terms of the unpolished, it's not just like in, say, movement, but the enemy models. Okay, like when they get killed, they don't really have death states. You just kind of lay there. They just kind of stop moving, and it doesn't look finished. And I was also having this weird rendering problem where more like the ammo and health wouldn't spawn until I hit like escape and went to the menu and then got back in. This is what I'm talking about in terms of this probably needed more time in early access. Now, but that aside, it's a perfectly serviceable boomer shooter. But not much more than that. So yeah, that'll about do it for KUR here. Be sure to tune in after the break, as Petty Fan will be reviewing The Mysterious Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.